Three,
two, one. Okay,
one.
now we are live. Welcome, everybody,
Welcome, welcome.
and a very happy 6th anniversary to Free Astroscience and FreeAstroScience.com. I'm a relatively new member here, so I'll let Gerd or Flavia take it away.
Thank you, thank you so much. Matthew, thank you for to celebrate our sixth anniversary of Jesus. I founded it during the pandemic, the worst history period ever. But the mission was to enlighten the power of knowledge. And
Igniting the power of knowledge.
yes, and years passed, years gone, and we still have hard work to do.
Yeah, your channel's doing really well. You've got over 300,000 followers on Facebook. I think you guys do really good work. I share the same mission. I think that's why we started working together, just bringing free education around the world. I believe we now have members from every continent, correct? North America, South America, Asia, Europe, the Middle East,
Europe,
Africa.
Latin
We don't have
America.
Yeah, we don't have an Australian, but
we have a lot. We have a lot of Australians.
yeah, so a very happy birthday to you guys. But now, and here actually, I'm just going to share my screen with you guys too, so that you can see what I'm doing here. So,
Flavia, what do you say about the players? What do you say? What do you like? Why you joined it?
Oh, first, hello everyone. I'm Flavia. I'm with Gerd and now Matthew in the team of Free Astroscience. It's a pleasure to discuss such nice topics regarding science, physics, health, lifestyle, environment, biology, and many things that Gerd usually creates to post on the website. Very interesting things. And welcome everyone. And we would appreciate your comments. It makes the discussions richer. And join us. You will access and be notified about several interesting contents posted on the website, on the Facebook page, and Instagram. And the 60th anniversary is a very great milestone of the channel. Thank you.
yeah, and it's awesome. Like I said, I think I've only been with you guys for a few months. I'm really happy you guys invited me along. It's great having more intelligent people from the scientific community to be able to, build with and share ideas with. But no, so let's kind of get into the main event here. I really just wanted to talk about, so if you guys have been following my page lately on Facebook, there was a pretty huge argument broke out on one of my shorts on Instagram and Facebook about whether or not the United States actually landed humans on the moon. Now, I want to be clear here. Most of these people weren't arguing that we're incapable of going to the moon or that we never went to the moon and put rovers or bots on the moon. But I'm finding that when I talk to people and kind of survey people that I meet in my day-to-day communications, that a lot of people actually believe the United States didn't land people on the moon in the 60s. Like I said, they think that, maybe some of the rovers and stuff like that are real, but that we never landed humans on the moon. So I just wanted to go through the different reasons. And I just want to be clear. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, that I do believe we landed on the moon. We landed humans on the moon in the 60s. But I do understand the motivation behind during the Cold War and why people could think that I do understand the motivation to fake it if we couldn't have done it, sort of thing. So I think it's worth addressing just because it's something that enough people honestly believe in. So, and actually, some of the people I was talking to at the barbecue today, the one guy actually thought that the ISS isn't even real, or that we're not sending people up to the ISS, that it's actually just like on a weather balloon or something like that. It was very interesting. So, like I said, but to me, the number one biggest thing that kind of points to why we did land on the moon is that 5 different nations have sort of landed on the moon now, and there has been independent verification. Garrett, if you could check this for me, I believe China took an image of us from orbit, but I know NASA took an image of the Eagle descent stage from orbit as well. So, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but another damning piece of evidence is the actual moon rocks that we have here on Earth. So Apollo crews carried home 382 kilograms, about 842 pounds of lunar material. Labs on different continents have studied it for decades. The stone tells the story every time, the same story every time. So we had 6 crewed landings, and actually 12 different humans have walked on the surface of the moon, right? 842 pounds or 382 kilograms of hull. We have a mirror up there that you can bounce a laser off of. And like I said, if you don't believe that humans landed on the moon, let me know down in the comments. But let me know why. Okay, please don't send me someone short. Okay, I want you to tell me with your own brain and your own thoughts and your own ideas why exactly. And I'll look into those ideas, and I'll do it earnestly. I won't just be dismissive, but yeah. And so Flavia and Gerd, you were saying that you've heard people say this around the world too, right? It's not just an American conspiracy.
My opinion is regarding the politics and geopolitics.
Yeah.
Why? Why? As the United States being the most important superpower in the world, people to feel this way, tend to say that the United States is a liar.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that's a popular sentiment around the world in general today, is that because America, yeah, we're the big country, we're mean, so.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, like the U.S. government has lied about plenty of things in the past. So
of course.
So I think, but every government has. But I think when you get older, you start realizing, like, okay, the government does lie about things. Why not this? Why not that? And you start getting a little bit more, I guess, jaded, right?
Let me say that the most people in the world, even in the US, use his feeling to 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 catalyze the frustration about lives, about the economies. So many people in the world use America as an evil. So
Yep.
everything.
Yeah, and even in the United States, there's a popular sentiment among a lot of people that,
Yes.
there are a lot of people that live in the United States that are kind of, I guess, anti-US sometimes. But I don't want to get into like that too much. But Flavia, so have you heard this over in Brazil? And then what are your thoughts? And
Yes.
do you think it's a reasonable position to think that the U.S. faked it, and then what do you kind of hear over in Latin America as the consensus? Like, what do your friends think? What do your family think?
I think there is no consensus here. People talk about several crazy theories without any evidence what they were talking about. But I will give my opinion about that. I believe the motivation of US to go to the moon first, as you said, the Cold War, the competition with Russia, and nowadays we have a competition with China, geopolitical reason. So I believe all the nations would like to be on the top of the competition. I have the highest technology. I have the best professionals, experts to develop the spacecraft and the best astronauts. I can get astronauts from abroad. I can do everything I want. So in this field, in this kind of thoughts, what can I understand? If US fail in go to the moon or fulfill a mission, how can US say I failed? I couldn't reach. It would be a shame. So in this case, in case of a failure, maybe US can have said some lies about that, or make some kind of camouflage, not saying everything it did, but all the evidences brought to us show that it's very the probability that men land on the moon is the highest probability.
Yeah, I think it's extremely likely that we did. And as you can see here, so NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter actually got a nice image from space of the Eagle descent module from Apollo 11, right? So for those who are unaware, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter is this little guy. It orbits around the moon, and we have the entire moon now mapped. The near side is mapped in very high detail. The far side is mapped in, so like medium detail. And so they actually got the Apollo 11 landing site. And so you can see here, this is the trail that Neil Armstrong took when he walked over to the Little West crater, right? You have the lunar module descent stage, the seismometer, even the camera that they set up. And I think I have this video saved on my computer, but there's a whole little zoomed in video where it zooms in, it shows you everything. You'll have to look at, actually my very first moon landing video, the Apollo 11, 12, and 13 one, it starts off showing this video. So NASA went, and basically for the naysayers, for the people who don't believe that we went to the moon, they were like, look, we got a picture of it from outer space. Here it is. So.
Yeah. Matthew, could you put this address in the comments?
Yeah, where are you sending it to me in the Zoom chat? You might want to send it to me on Facebook.
It's a website in
Oh yeah, that one. Okay, I got you. I'll throw it in the chat.
the comments. In the comments. So
There you go.
So people can go and can see the moon's high resolution
Yeah, and
image.
so let's see here. I was just curious. So did China capture an image of the Apollo lander? I guess any of them. Third-party evidence for Apollo moon landings. Okay. And then, as you pointed out in the article too, like we can actually independently verify a lot of the data ourselves now. You know, so Chandrayaan-1, the terrain mapping of India's Chandrayaan-1 probe did not have enough resolution to record Apollo. Chandrayaan-2 captured an image of the Apollo 11 lunar module Eagle descent stage, and that's right here. Right, so this is India. And like I said, India historically has always been sort of neutral with the US. We're not really allies, we're not really enemies per se, right? But like, they're not necessarily our best friends. So it's not necessarily in their best interest to be independently just verifying this for us. China's second lunar probe.
Wait, in India, it's not India is just power, but not a superpower. So India couldn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Could speak anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
go.
China claims to have spotted traces of the Apollo landings and the lunar rover, although relevant image, China doesn't really make a lot of their stuff publicly available, and they copyright a lot of it. So, India does make all of their stuff publicly available generally, just like NASA does. South Korea's lunar probe Danuri, which was launched in 2022, is capable of it imaged both Apollo 11 and Apollo 17's landing sites with good enough resolution to spot the landers.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So there you
go.
So this is from South Korea.
We don't discuss this a lot because I believe astronautics here in Brazil need to develop more. It's not so high technology like other countries as US, China, because government doesn't invest so much money on this.
Yeah, you were telling me that it is a very rural country, right? I mean, what 70 or 80% of the country's landmass is the rainforest, right? And a lot of that is preserved and not really. Do you think it has to do with that, Flavia? Like, there's more of a natural sense in Brazil, like a lot more of a people who want to be in touch with nature instead of technology as much, maybe, or
no.
I don't think so.
Or is it just the development of the country?
I will say something. I will make a critique to my own country. Nowadays, we have a president that invests all the money, giving some kind of money payment, month payment to poor people, and all the money collected by the taxes is distributed to people that don't work and can spend time without doing anything and receiving government money. So we don't have so much money now to invest in other fields because people here in Brazil, they want votes. To get votes, they need to be popular.
So is it kind of a more socialist style of government, or?
Yeah. And unfortunately, people in Brazil are not so interested on this kind of science and development because many people here are live in a very poor condition and don't have properly education.
Mm-hmm.
So they they don't know about that. They don't understand about this, so they can't reach this reality.
Yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate to hear. How popular is aeronautics and astronautics in Italy, Gerd? Is it probably somewhere in between, right? Somewhat popular, but
It's very popular. Very
yeah.
popular.
Well, that's good.
We are part of the European Space Agency. The Italian Space Agency is one of the most advanced in Europe.
Yeah, for a small country, you guys do punch way above your weight for the space agency. Yeah.
But we have the same problem as Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
We spend a very few euros in researches. The most talented Italian people go abroad. Why? Because in Italy, the wage for a scientist is very low.
Yeah.
It's very low.
Yeah, and
So
I know the Italian Space Agency builds modules for NASA. They build stuff for the ESA.
Yes, of course.
Mm-hmm. You guys don't really build your own rockets per se, right? But like it's a lot more of like helping with NASA and the ESA.
Fortunately, Italy has a good history in the space engineering.
Yeah.
As
Well, yeah, you guys had Da Vinci, didn't he? He made a flying machine way before anyone.
yes, of course.
Yeah, Italy's always been known as a very scientifically forward nation, I believe. Yeah, all throughout history, ever since the ancient times. So
yes.
this is the Apollo 12 landing site. Look, you can even make out the tracks here.
Yes.
You know. But honestly, I guess what it comes down to, like you were touching on, whether you believe we landed on the moon or not, I think what it comes down to is just whether or not you trust official statements or not, right? Do you trust what the government says, or do you just kind of think they're full of baloney and they're wasting our money? And I mean, because I think that's what a lot of people think, is that they think it's like a laundering, a money laundering thing or whatever. The Pentagon likes to lose money all the time. The Pentagon fails their audits every year, and they're just like, "Oh, we lost $6 billion. I don't know what happened." It probably goes to secret projects or whatever. But and then another thing I just wanted to touch on that somebody actually commented on before the video even started. So at Save the Future said, "I think we landed on the moon more times than we know, to be honest. The reverse." So he thinks the opposite. And I've heard this theory before too. And so this is an interesting one. And we didn't talk about this beforehand, so if you guys have never heard of it, but there's this theory called Operation Solar Warden. I'll Google it real quick. But basically the idea is that we never stopped going to the moon, right? And that let's see. They made a movie. They made like a movie or a book about it too. So hold on, I just want to find the actual theory itself. But basically the idea is that the US kept going to the moon. We met aliens out there, and that we actually have we have spaceships out there flying around all the time, doing all kinds of stuff, and that we're working with the aliens, and that basically the elites just don't tell the humans about it because there's no need to tell us. So when we're the theory is when we're launching satellites and stuff, that those rockets are actually going somewhere else, and that everything is kind of a lie, right? So here, let's check this out. like I said, so the idea is, like I said, that there's a secret space fleet, right? Or like I said, at the very least, there's also a theory out there that some people believe that we continued going back, right? The Apollo missions never truly stopped, and that they continued on in the 80s and the 90s, and like I said, we disguised it as other stuff, right? So that's the opposite end of this conspiracy, right? So some people believe that we never landed boots on the moon at all. Other people believe that we like bumped into aliens out there and that we continued going back over and over. So that's the complete opposite side of the spectrum, if you will. And and like I said, I think as scientists, just real quick, Gerd, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but just real quick, I think it's very important as scientists to always stay in touch with like what the general population thinks, right? And if like we're not communicating things properly, that's our fault, right? If half the general public thinks that the US didn't land on the moon, then part of it is probably the US does a bad job of being trustworthy, and maybe they need to stop getting caught in lies so much, and that would sort of help people believe a little bit more. But then also I think it's also our job to do videos like this to actually address things that people think, because I think that a lot of people like in the scientific community just think it's absurd and might dismiss it, right? And I think it's important to not dismiss things just because maybe we think it's for sure, right? Because we study this stuff all the time. This is kind of our lives basically and what we like to do. So to us, it seems just really obvious. And so it's easy to be, I think, dismissive to people and to say that, maybe it's a silly theory or a stupid theory even. But I think it's important to analyze every theory. Now, I don't give the same respect to flat earthers. But I don't know. But I think it's important to always be unbiased, to always look into things genuinely. And otherwise you can't, I think, call yourself, I guess, a real scientist or a real person of science or, Anyways, sorry, Gerd, go ahead.
Sorry.
You're cutting.
Saying this, that do you know that the humanity is not rational. Is not rational.
Yeah.
So we are believers in a wide spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the way that I always started out my channel, because I know, we started our channels separately, right? So, but the way that I always do my documentaries, like if I'm doing like a documentary and writing a script and doing an edited documentary, I always like to start with what the official government explanations are, and then towards the end I go into like what other people think. What do people on the internet think? What are the conspiracies and stuff? Because I always think it's worth addressing. And then I tell people at the end, take it with a grain of salt, use your own brain to make up your own mind. I'm not here to tell you what you think. I'm not your mama. My job, and I think that the best teachers and the best scientists out there help people to think for themselves, help people to think critically, help people to learn and to understand things on their own, not forcing ideas down people's throats and telling them what to think, because the truth of the matter is most people are pretty stubborn. And, especially on the internet and on Facebook, if you just go trying to tell people what to think, you're not going to get a very good response most of the time. If you actually take your time to listen to people a little bit, you get more bees with honey. I don't know if you've ever read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? But people love to have their ego stroked, and people love to know that they're being listened to and that you actually genuinely care about what they're saying, and that you're not just listening to respond. You're not just knee-jerk reacting and saying whatever you think, right? So.
And the job of science is to verify, observe and verify.
Yeah,
verify always.
Yeah,
Always verify.
we should always be auditing each other, and that's one of the things I was talking about in that I did that video where I was talking about the times where science is wrong about things. And I think one of the bigger problems with the scientific community is that people don't get paid enough to peer review stuff. There's a lot of money in a new and novel experiment, right? That's why you'll always see weird articles like new study shows that eating chocolate with a glass of wine on midnight during a blue moon can decrease your blood pressure, right? Because by adding all of those variables, you are now technically coming up with a new study, right? And so then you can get funding because you're coming up with a new study. So I think like we need to lobby the government to put more funding into verifying results and sending them off to other countries, having China verify it, sending it off to Australia, sending it off to putting it on the internet for citizen scientists to look at, right? Because I think that with having the internet nowadays, people want to have the data. They're like, if I'm smart enough, why can't I see it and find out for myself? And now, a lot of times the data is out there and people just honestly would rather watch a 30-second short and listen to some dude and send me a short than they would actually read an article. But
in your state where you live, how much does a telescope cost? How much? How many dollars?
A cheap telescope is like, I don't know, $500, but a nice one, I mean, you can get into tens of thousands of dollars. I got a relatively cheap tabletop one. It's a 6-inch telescope, so I can see the moon pretty well. I can't make out like I can't really make out like Saturn and stuff like that super great. But it's a decent little telescope, and it didn't come with a tripod or anything like that. But it's just a little tabletop, and that was like $500 or $600. So yeah, if you wanted like to starter, get yourself into looking into the sky, $500 or $600, a few thousand if you got it would be better. Yeah.
Yes, but so you say that everyone could prove with a telescope that people wasn't.
Yeah, and especially people, you can't see the footprints on the moon with your own backyard telescope.
Yes, you can.
You're not going to be able to see the Eagle descent stage and stuff like that. But what you can see with your own telescope, you can see the ISS when it transits in front of the moon. You can see the SpaceX satellites when they come across the sky. You can see a lot of stuff out there. But to be fair though, there's also digital telescope projects now where you can rent digital telescope time.
Yes.
And you can use really powerful telescopes. So you just get a couple $100, you can rent a digital telescope yourself. Digital telescope project is one of them, I think.
Beautiful.
Or the virtual telescope project is the one that I know. But there are several of these, right? So all you have to do is you send these guys an email. They'll tell you what the price is. I think it's like a couple $100 an hour, depending on the telescope, because they have a less powerful one and a more powerful one.
Yeah.
I actually I think that would be a really fun live stream to do, is to rent out some telescope time and just take user recommendations on, hey, what do you want us to look at? And then, just look at different parts of the sky and, just have like a little astronomy session together. That could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, you can't really check the price. You have to like email them. But there's other companies like this. There's dozens of them, I think now, or like at least like a dozen. So there's different. It's like, what's this? The digital telescope at the University of Warwick. It produces a movie-like data stream of the entire sky. So I don't know if this one's rentable or if it's just always watching the sky. I'm just kind of looking through.
Is it public? it public or not.
Yeah, but the point being that you can verify a lot of data on your own nowadays. Like I said, we're looking at this is a composite of all of the different lunar reconnaissance orbiter mapping, right?
Okay.
So yeah, this is the LROC, the lunar AC. I just put this in the chat, but yeah, it's the quickmaps.lroc. It's kind of a weird website, so that's why I put it in the chat.
Yeah.
But and then there's also NASA Trex, and we can look at a few of these. I just thought the resolution on this one isn't quite as good. It just doesn't quite look as sharp to me, so that's why I kind of like. And then you can do the 3D map on this too, so it's got 3D globe. But see, I just think this one just looks a little bit sharper. But then NASA also has these other treks, like Mars Trek, because Mars is mostly mapped out too now. I think Mars is like 70% mapped or something like that. So yeah, that's the Olympus Mons and the Tharsis volcanoes and the world's
It's trendy now.
Yeah, the solar system's tallest known mountain and the solar system's deepest known canyon that are like less than a drive from Italy to Oslo.
Yes.
And I'm curious about like the Venus Trek and stuff because they have a Venus Trek on here too. They got Vesta Series, Titan, Mercury. Let's look at Titan.
Titan. Ooh.
Obviously, this isn't going to be in as good of resolution.
Very low.
Yeah, very low resolution comparatively. But it just goes to show you how much of the moon that we actually have mapped out. It's kind of crazy. And the high detail that we have it because of that lunar reconnaissance orbiter. What is this? The Icy Moons Trek. Ooh, select an icy moon from below. Look at Enceladus first. Yeah, that's one of the things I really like doing is just showing people all of these different tools because a lot of times it is overwhelming trying to find all of the different tools. Here, I'll put this down in the chat as well. Look at that.
Matthew, I'm sorry that a lot of people don't know those tools.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always just liked finding resources for people in general. Like when I was in the Army, because there's so many different, like when you join the U.S. Army, there's so many different benefits you get, but like nobody's going to really go out and help you find them. So like as far as getting your free college and like some of the different, like your veterans housing and all of that stuff. So I always liked helping my friends in the Army finding those different resources. I'm like, dude, if you're a U.S. Army veteran, you really, unless you got some really bad PTSD and stuff and you have like some mental problems, but you get hooked up with a lot of benefits and stuff when you get out. And I think our country does try better than anybody. Like we spend more per soldier than anybody, that was one of the reasons we had so much trouble in Afghanistan because, Afghanistan was only paying their average soldier probably like $6,000 to train them up and put them in the military. Our average soldier over like the first 3 or 4 years of being in the military costs like $270,000 or something, because we actually say what you want about the U.S. We do actually treat our soldiers really well and stuff. So.
But before you move the topic, I would like to make a suggestion. This idea of show the tools to people and take advantage of your knowledge regarding your time on army, working to the army. So maybe create some kind of, on the Free Astroscience web page, a page inside with all these tools and description of each tool with the links to help people.
That's actually a good idea. That's actually because
Yes,
Because
yes.
I don't have a centralized repository of all these tools for myself, so we should start doing that. Yeah, we'll just call it like space tools, or and then we'll be like, here below is a a list of all these different tools that you can use to explore the universe.
Maybe put on the side besides the link with the indication in the description, but the link of your of the live or the video that you are explaining how to use the tool, the Facebook links or Instagram links.
Oh yeah,
to help people understand how to use the tool.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything I wanted to talk about today. I did want to get into the AMOC a little bit, but we can save that for another episode just because I have been stuck on this moon stuff so much. My Instagram's been kind of blowing up.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but all right, I got to get out of here. I got to walk my dog and stuff. So thank you so much, Flavia and Gerd. Happy anniversary again. Thanks for starting the Free Astro website, for bringing free science education to so many people. And yeah, you guys
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Flavia. Obrigado, Flavia. Obrigado.
Thank you, guys. Grazie.